Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. What is it that motivates you? What motivates you to come to Toastmasters? There's a lot to be said about being relaxed, but there's also something to be said about motivation and establishing core value, and I'll explain what that means in just a minute. Motivation. Think back to a story of the famed psychologist Abraham Maslow. He was growing up on a farm, and his father was trying to get a mule into a barn, and the mule had a harness on, and the father was straining on the harness, trying to pull the mule into the barn, and the mule was like this. And so young Abraham was laughing at his father. His father got very, very angry and said, "Abe, if you think you can do a better job, come over here and give it a try." So Abe went up to the head of the mule and patted it, calmed it down a little bit, went along the side and stroked it, calmed it down some more, went around to the back and just yanked his tail and went right into the barn. A lot of motivation comes from knowing what is it that motivates us and other people. And that's what Toastmasters is all about. How Toastmasters helps build core value. What do I mean by core value? Core value is essentially made up of three things. First of all, what is the most important thing about you as a person? Without this quality, you would be an entirely different person. Secondly, what is the most important thing to you as a spouse and parent? Third, what is the most important thing about your life in general? This is something you would want shared about you at your funeral. The answers to these questions help form the foundation of understanding and accepting your true self. And what really matters most to you, they're the source of your inherent value, your strength, your resilience, and your personal power. Now, ideally, and I stress that ideally, core value is basically living in accordance with the way we were created. We were created to do good things, according to the Bible. I'm a Christian, so I explain things from my perspective of the Bible. Ephesians 2:10 says we were created to do good things. We were created to be loving beings. And by the way, a lot of psychologists stress that the need to love and be loved is more important than the survival instinct. We all need to be loved and appreciated. So if we're living in accordance with the way we are created, we are going to be filled with love, having patience and kindness, rejoicing with the truth, protecting others, trusting others, hoping, persevering, having an unconditional type love. Ideally, at the core, we are going to be in perfect harmony and unity with God. We're going to be adequate, we're going to be richly creative, and beautifully whole as people. I thought this quote was rather significant. We are born with the drive to create and experience value, to make someone or something important and worthy of appreciation, protection, time, energy, effort, and sacrifice. This makes our sense of self and our core value grow and makes us feel more alive. Now, what happens in real life is that we haven't reached our full potential in having and enjoying our core value. We have a deficit. And this comes from feelings of inadequacy, diminished worth, being incomplete with core hurts, and I'll explain that in a minute. Disconnection with our core value, low self-esteem, self-hate. We start basically malfunctioning because we're not living in accordance with our deepest values. Well, how does this happen? It happens when we start experiencing core hurts, what I call thorns in the heart. And this is not a male-female thing. This is a human thing. We all go through these things. Externally, we have criticism. My father, for example, when he was a young boy, came to my grandfather and was very proud of his grades at school. He had gotten all B's. And his father looked at it a minute and put it down and says, "Why aren't they all A's? Man, that hurts." When I was thinking about going into law school, my father said, You'll never make it to law school, and you know it, Warren. That hurt. It motivated me to prove him wrong, but it really hurt. So external criticism fuels incompetency, and we start making mistakes because we start believing what people do, tell us about ourselves. Demands. If others say, if you don't do this, I can't value you, and if I can't value you, you are not worth loving. That hurts. Blame from others, rejection, abandonment. But even on the internal side, this is kind of psychology 101 here, we have guilt, shame, anxiety, depression, isolation, emotional withdrawal, compulsive behavior, obsessions, addictions, maybe a victim mentality, blaming others, projecting our own bad feelings onto other people, identity crisis. All these things are working against us, as I said, thorns in the heart, and help diminish our core values. Now, when this starts going wrong, in law school, we call it the parade of horribles. Psychologists call it a slippery slope. Things start getting from bad to worse. If we feel that deficit in the core of our being, then what we start doing, we try to control our environment and control other people. I will make you love me. If you won't love me on your own, I will make you love me. We start to try to avoid the feelings of failure and inadequacy that we feel. But the problem is that we start substituting power for love and having a demanding spirit, which is a completely self-destructive path, since no one can experience more love by hurting other people. So this control is destined to failure. And what happens is we start being very resentful and angry and abusive even, because we're fighting to protect the vulnerability that we feel and the low levels of core value. Start having very reactive personalities. You know people that have very hot tempers and just fly off on a moment's notice. You never know how they're going to handle situations. So all of this parade of horribles keeps us feeling chronically devalued.